And if it's a good game, I don't know. I know Xbox is definitely hurting for more Japanese style games. All right, let's dive in. It looks like they got 27 questions for us. So, which is the main control scheme, gamepad or keyboard? Fact said it supports gamepad. Important to me. Yeah, and then it's like if it doesn't roll out at the same time, subs, you end up seeing like, oh, they have the two different modes. Hello, hello. Show me the gamepad UI, please. Oh, and he's showing off a PlayStation 4 controller now. That's moving the mouse, which, that's okay. Like, go look at Final Fantasy XIV. They do it perfectly. Okay, he can use the D-pad to kind of jump on the menus. So that's really good to see. It's coming, Andy. Soon for PSO2. But we did have to wait a long time. Lots of mapping options. So last week they said they had the Xbox done and they were working on more gamepads. So this confirms PS4 support for gamepads. Yeah, Bandai Namco is big enough. You know, I guess it's just a matter of like, you know, what's best for the game. Because if it's best for them to get it ready, and as long as we don't have like a massive amount of delay, like 8 years, then I'm all for it. You know, they want to wait another 6 months or a year, you know, and then that way by that time the game is even more refined and you have even more content. But we'll have to wait and see, you know. So you also don't lose mouse and keyboard controls if you're in gamepad mode, which is really important. Oh yeah, absolutely, Andy. Yeah, we run a lot of different like overall with the Discord community. Yeah, we have a lot of different games that we play together, and yeah, if this game comes the West and it isn't like egregious in terms of its monetization, like predatory, then absolutely we will be there day one. And I don't think I'm not worried about it being predatory, by any means right now. They have a lot of good examples, especially when you look at PSO2 and how to run that kind of style game. But no matter what, until we know more as a free-to-play game, I'm always like, okay, it's up to you to sell me on it. And I'm all for supporting a game that I love. So the best versions of free-to-play games are ones that have optional subscriptions so that I can kind of subscribe and just say, like, this is my commitment, you know? But that's just me. You can actually change the control scheme per class as well. That's really exciting to see. Not all buttons are decided yet, so they're just deciding all the default keys later for the official release, because they may add and change content that requires these buttons, and the dev team is using both so that they can feel good. But yeah, if you guys aren't a part of our Discord server, be sure to check that out.
CBT 以降はこの頭頂部とか目とか頬、顔周りですかね。マスク的な耳とか、5から7ぐらいの部位に着用できるアクセサリーを考えているといった状態で開発を進めています。指輪も欲しいな。指輪もね、当然検討はしたんですけど、やっぱこの ここにも衣装つけるじゃないですか。この時の処理どうするのみたいなところとかがあって、まあ難しかったりするパーツもまあ当然あるというところです。まあ気合わせの時どうするかみたいなところが、課題のものがあったりするんですが、まあ5から7ぐらいは、体の部位につけれるようにしたいなというところで進めているということだそうです。
それでは次の質問お願いします。はい、メインストーリーは無料
All right.
一人でも
How many accessories are there in facial options? There's one section right now for animal ears, but they are planning on adding 7 distinct accessory slots. Oh man, that's freaking huge. Then they're aiming for 5 to we're aiming for 5 to 7 slots is what they're targeting. Let's see here. And then question 3 is what they're on right now. Can you play the main story for free, aka single player? Yeah, Star Wars. What are you liking right now about Final Fantasy XIV, Andy? And they are confirming, yes, you can play through it by yourself. And I don't know. I don't know how I feel about that. Hopefully there's plenty of reasons to team up. A lot of chat's going off about PvE versus PvP right now, just FYI.
後から始めた人たちが予習必須みたいな雰囲気になりませんか？なるほどね。はいはい。この辺はちょっと
And so some in chat's talking about like chat while fighting, and right now they've already confirmed, this isn't this specific question, that there's going to be a limited chat function while you're actually fighting, so a lot more stickers and kind of almost like quick hot chat commands, but then when you're not in combat, that you have full chat, and they were thinking about that, but for the closed beta test, that's going to be how that functions. Okay, so now they're talking about party versus party system. This here, they want it to eventually become so that people only want experienced players. Or say, want it eventually become that people only want experienced players. So people worry. Basically, the question is focusing around the meta. Like, won't it become that people are saying if you're not a part of the meta, if you're not experienced, then we're not going to want to play with you. So they are hoping that players are going to want to party with all experience levels. See if they clarify more. People want to play, and that people want to play certain strats together. And they're making developments regarding that. So I guess a way to reward experienced players teaming up with new players, because you want to have people welcoming in the community. The lifeblood of an MMO is pulling in new players. But the theme park strategy is you pull in new players because the people at the end that have ridden every ride 1,000 times have no interest in playing it again. I hope they are able to bring in some sandbox elements. Sandbox elements would be something like the player-driven economy of crafting and gathering and and making weapons, in that regard. Things that there's people there and a reason to do so. But they are going to implement a party finder system where you can recruit and join other players in the closed beta test. So you can play alone or you can party up as well. Yeah, Final Fantasy XIV from a story perspective is fantastic. Final Fantasy XIV, I've always called it's a single-player Final Fantasy game, or it's a mainline Final Fantasy game, and then its secondary nature is an MMO. So it invites you in with the story, gives you that experience and that kind of TV series evolving game, and then it says, hey, if you want to stick around, you can keep playing. We've got stuff for you to do. Otherwise, come back with the next story patch or expansion. Kuni, they just showed off a dungeon, and then they've been kind of giving more details about the PvP arena system and PvP being party versus party. There are currently no plans for what we would define as PvP player versus player. So that's what you missed, and I'll have my highlights of this stream up on Work to Play, as well as on Ginger Prime, as well as on Work to Game. All different kinds of categories of information dropping for you guys today. Yeah. Oh yeah. The Shadowbringers expansion writer, she did amazing. The story is just phenomenal. Such a really works on multiple levels. So they say you can play alone or in a party. So the main story can be played alone because of the changes that they've made. If it's too hard, you can go find a party. So like if you want, I guess a challenge is a part of the playing solo, but you can also team up and play the story as a party. That's really important to me. I'm really happy to see that. And they say it. Let's see here. Rematchmaking. So it's unrestricted. It's just a random queue for matchmaking. So you can get into dungeons ASAP. But if you want certain classes, etc., they want you to use the party finder. Again, sounds like they're going. They're at least this reminds me a lot of Final Fantasy XIV's tools. So they want you to try out the various contents and features. Solo party play isn't tuned equally yet, or that's what they're asking. And they say they don't know what that means, by zoning. So, sorry, I know that all sounds a little confusing. I'll see if I can't clarify here in a second. So as they showed early, level 20 and a level 30 is a big difference. So if you level up, you can take on more mobs solo. So I guess like where they were as level 20 as a party, they were able to take on higher level mobs much easier, which makes sense. Someone's asking about a level sync, and they say this will not apply to stats. So as long as you level up, you can clear the stuff, even if you're bad at action gameplay. So it doesn't sound like dungeons are going to level sync you, level cap you. That way, like they say, like if you're struggling with the dungeon, you can go grind it out, you can come back, and then you can clear the contents. Whether you want to do that solo or as a group. Yeah. Yoshi P's big change in saying that we're not going to do the bonuses based off of the Metascore, I think was a huge freeing thing. And hopefully we see that more and more. The fact that Metacritic has weighed into people's bonuses, I think that's actually negatively impacted game development, freedom of expression, and thus we're getting we've gotten more cookie cutter games. We've obviously gotten great games over the last decade, so it's not a one-to-one correlation. But the fact that when he did that for Shadowbringers, I think it kind of hopefully shows to say, yeah, let's just make something fun and something that like they want to make, and then the players will respond to it. So they're asking, do enemies have elemental weaknesses? Is there a damage up or down based off of that? And they confirm, yes. Not just on skills, but on weapons too. The damage and effects are quite powerful. Yeah. And that goes, I think, into the battle score that we were talking about hopefully earlier. But they don't want to make it obviously tuned so that you're just insanely overpowered. They want to place more emphasis on cooperation over elemental advantages. I'm glad you're enjoying Insanity King.
こはちょっとしっかり解説をしときたいんですよ、鈴木さん。
How far are you in the game so far?
喉が
今週の鈴木さんのパワポのコーナー。
あ、そうだ。
そうだ。
図があるやつだ。これ。
図があります。
今週の図があるやつだ。
みんなざわっとしてるかもしれませんが図があります。
ブーンのやつ。
はい。まずじゃあ次のページお願いします。
はい、
まず最初に用語の説明をさせていただくんですが、この後ミッションという言葉が結構出てくるんですけど、ミッションというのは以下を内包する総称というところで、ダンジョンですね、自由探索を含まないダンジョン、闘技場、レイド、タイムアタックというものが、ミッションと呼ばれるものであると思ってください。でこのミッションというのは、始まりと終わりが明確に存在をしていて、マッチングとかパーティーを組んで人数を限っていくコンテンツであるっていうのがミッションです。なのでフィールドとか自由探索
Why did you delete your character, Insanity King? You know, you can just create a new character. That's impressive, already back in Stormblood. They're asking, what are the looting conditions? And then the missions include those at the bottom. So dungeon, it's not a free exploring dungeon. The arena, the raid, time attack dungeons. Missions are things that they have to clear at the start and the end. So it's not field and free exploration things. And loot conditions, you kill an enemy. Party member kills an enemy.
テストに出るみたいな感じなんですけど、
まあもう文章だけ見ててもわからないな。はい。
まあ要はですね、これ横殴り。
Like they're talking about time attack, obviously.
なるほど。わかりやすい。
PvE rankings, essentially. As long as the party does 1 damage to an enemy and the enemy gets defeated by a player, you will get loot. So either you or anybody in your party, as long as they do 1 damage, then you're eligible for drops. Considering how fast enemies died, like, that kind of makes sense. So there's gonna be no kill stealing. So, like, if somebody came in and is like, "Oh, I did more damage with 1 hit, the loot is mine."
なのでこれはパーティーを組んでいれば良いので、ダメージを与えないパーティーメンバーがいたとしても、これはクエストを受注さえしていれば進みます。また同じマップの一定距離に何かにいれば、100% の経験値が入るという形になります。はい、
みんなちょっと気になってるかもしれませんが、鶏はエネミーではございません。
Well, tip of the hat to you, sir.
これゲーム内のスタンプなんですね。のデザインを使っていて。
So everybody's gonna get 100% of the experience. The enemy's slayed for the quest, and even if they don't damage the mob. So I guess that's if your party still does or something like that. So here they're detailing it out like graphically. So you got it looks like 3 parties and 1 solo player or 2 solo players, and they're all interested in this mob.
ソロでもダメージを当てていないパーティーでも達成はできないという形。
So as multiple parties hit the mob, the chicken is a representation, I guess, of the enemy in this case.
というそういうことになります。はい、では次お願いします。はい、で次にアイテムドロップ。
Hey, Chaos. They did the dungeon, dude. They already did the dungeon.
これイラスト屋さんですよ。
I'll have the highlights up and I'll have it on Ginger Prime and work the game later. It's going good, man. Great stream yesterday, by the way. What? Dude. Dude! Oh my gosh! I'd wiggle, but we'll get copyright claims. Thank you so much for that Twitch Prime sub. Let's see here. So as long as you damage the mob, you're going to get quest progress, your XP, you're available for loot. Everyone gets the drops, but everyone gets some personal loot and things that are specific to that player's class, etc. So loot is personalized. Hey, Chazarek.
当てていれば
Good morning to you, legendary, magnificent
と
person.
ころになるんですが、
Thank you. I feel like I am. So far, so good.
撃破したパーティーメンバー全員ですね。なのでパーティーの場合は、一人が攻撃している
You'll all get something, but it could be different.
エネミーを撃破したパーティーメンバーに所属していれば全員が獲得できると、はい、いう形に。
これ1以上のダメージって書いてありますけど、
This is Blue Protocol. They just showed off. Actually, they showed off the dungeon and the arena. And the arena is not PvP; it's PvE arena, so it's horde mode. Multiple waves of enemies, culminating with a boss fight, timed rankings, and more.
は殴ってちゃんとダメージ出してくださいと、はい、そしたら、権利がもらえますよってことですね。はい、
I need to take some Japanese classes.
はい、次に宝箱
For as much as I love Japanese games,
出るパターンはエネミ
yes, like a horde mode.
フィールドに落ちていることとミッションの中、まあ、例えばダンジョンの中にあるといったケースがあります。
はい、
宝箱の場合は、先ほどお話したルート券
They're saying dot damage doesn't
ルー
count?
ト券がない人には
Okay.
見えません。なのでエネミーが
Now they're covering treasure chests.
って思っても、ルート券がある人にしか見えないので
I like the graphic for the treasure chest. Very appropriate.
はい、一方フィールドでは、フィールドに今全員取得できるという状態です。なので、
So as long as you meet the loot conditions, 1 damage, you're going to be available to see a treasure box.
他の人は、はい、なので見えた宝箱は取って大
That chicken was loaded though. Loot for everybody.
見えた宝箱は取っても、横取りしたとか
And everyone can take it in the field.
ないですね。はい。という形になってます。まあミッションも、パーティー全員が1回ずつ取れるという形になります。はい。というところです。
So you can't steal items or
次
anything.
ありますね。はい。次お願いします。ミッションのリザルト、
Map?
ミッションの攻略時にリザルトとして入手できるアイテムは、そのマップ内にいた全員が獲得できるというところになっています。はい、
あれですね。書いてある内容よりもフェステのスタンプの方に
Yeah, they talked about it, Andy. They haven't covered it on this specific stream, but I think they have talked about player housing. I have a post going up today about New World's player housing system, which is fascinating. It's going to be fascinating to see ultimately how that does, because some of the things, you should check out that video when it goes live at 9, because it goes into detail. Like, there are things that they said that I'm like, man, I would love it if 14 had that system. And there are some things that people might be like, I don't like that. So I'm very curious as to how 14 players react to New World's player housing system. But they haven't gone into detail about player housing here. Yeah, thanks, man. Thanks, y'all, for watching the videos, by the way. It really means a lot. YouTube tends not to recommend our non-Final Fantasy videos, as opposed, because somebody sent me a link saying, hey, have you seen this article? And I was like, we posted about it 2 days ago. They're like, it's not showing up in my feed. I'm like, yeah, YouTube. That's why you gotta ring that bell. Or something, I don't know.
1時間で太陽が沈むのありえる？
はい。
ということなんですけど、
ありえませんが、はい。
ってことですね。
So they're saying there may be some exceptions to the general concept of the looting system. So basically, if you find people fighting stuff, you might as well hit the mob and get, because there's no kill stealing or loot stealing. So things are just, you're going to just see a wave of players just murdering everything. So how does the day and night cycle work? Does it match up with real time? No, because most players would only see the nighttime. Facts. So they say it used to be 24 minutes equals 24 hours. That's pretty fast for a cycle. So some people might want to see more scenery at night, etc. I think if they go to like an hour equals 24 hours. So they actually set it to 48 minutes equals 24 hours. So, okay. Okay. Yeah, if you don't have the bell, I don't know. Like, let me know if you've got the bell checked, and if you have the bell checked, and you're only seeing those 2 types of videos. Well, we'll keep posting, and we'll have to see ultimately how that goes. That sounds too quick in my mind. I wonder if they'll keep. I mean, this is beta. Like, I wonder if they'll keep adjusting it.
サービスに向けてですね、アカウント内で、アイテムを送ることができる、レターのような機能。
Oh no, insanity! Oh no, YouTube.
レターという機能でも全て
Yeah, you gotta go check out.
というわけではないという形。
Yeah, go check out like our homepage, and if there's any videos you missed, man, like go give it some love or something like that if you're interested in it. We cover a lot of games. And if you haven't checked out my Ginger Prime channel, you should like if you sub to that too. I post over there as well.
まあまずさっき僕死んだじゃない。
さっき死んだ時画面映ってたんですかね。あ、でもどうなんですか？
違うんですよ。すぐ鈴木くんに切り替えてもらったので、実はあの時僕ヒットポイント50。
So can you move character items? CBT, you get two characters. You can send letters, but not for all items. You can't transfer items between character. Bummer. I was hoping there would be. Is there a death penalty if you die in a dungeon? When I die and I respawned at 50% HP and I got a slowness debuff, so I couldn't catch up. Let's see.
ヒットポイントは半分の状態で復活します。で、ですね、CAT の時にあった、ダンジョンやレイドでの、リスポーンに自力
Is that too much to ask? Just want a multiplayer game I can decorate like an Animal Crossing, and you have stuff to fight like in Monster Hunter with a Final Fantasy-like story. Is that too much to ask? Apparently. It's a pretty big ask, I think. So yes, there is a slight penalty for dying. There is no free spawn like in Cat. Don't know what they mean by Cat. Oh, the closed alpha test. Excuse me. Yeah.
ボタンはあるんですが使えないです。
すいません、間に合いませんでした。
特にね CBT でなくしちゃダメなアイテムってちょっと存在してないの。
So that's good, because it's like you could run the risk of charging people to respawn without penalty, and that's, I think, predatory. So it does not sound like they're doing that. Chat saying, I was hoping to see some kind of comment like, you die in real life. Like, like Sword Art Online. Like, you die, you're gone.
それを適宜切り替えられますかっていう。
そうですね。これは好みのスキルプリセットを登録をしておいて、それを
Is there any way to lock items so that way you don't accidentally drop them? And they say not in the closed beta test, but soon they're going to add that system to the game, so you can lock items. That way you don't accidentally get rid of them. And they say, can you change your skills? Or excuse me, your skill buttons. I like the Rathalos fight so much. It was a really unique twist on the game, and I was like, gosh, I'd love to see what they could do with this game, kind of in more, maybe a little bit more action oriented. I know not everybody wants that, but.
CBT ではいっぱい試してもらいたいなというのもあるので、ぜひ、よろしくお願いします。フィードバックもいただきたいポイントということになっております。それでは次の質問いってみましょう。食べ物飲み物系アイテムは実際に食べたり飲んだりする？これは誰が答えれば？俺が答える。間に合ってないだけで、
Yeah, I couldn't get into Monster Hunter World either. It was more the party making up system. Like you put that into an open world where you see all your people running around, you form your party, you go out and do the content. But posting on the board, having them tell people, hey, I posted it, go join. If they had a persistent party system, that would have been way more. I think I would have gotten into it way more. I wish they gave us a dungeon system that leveled up, so that let's say a 4-man, you could push yourself to the limit of your 4-man team. Maybe that's level, dungeon level 5. But maybe like a savage or an extreme players could say, yep, we're dungeon level 30 or 90 or a million. Like it's just like every time you beat it, you put like the dungeon levels up, and then every tier unlocks new modifiers and things like that. So you're like, oh, you get positive modifiers, negative modifiers, and the enemies get stronger and stronger and stronger. So you're going to push yourself to some theoretical max. But design-wise, code-wise, that's just, hey, you know, you beat it. Now the monsters are all another a level higher in stats and things like that. That's what I want. Because you're good if they design 4-player content, they can't. The extreme stuff. It's like if it's designed for just one play style, just you know, it's gonna expire. People are gonna not do it, and then you know, there's gonna be no reason to do it. All right, let's see here. I missed a couple questions. Are there food and drinks actually? Sorry. So regarding the skill buttons, they say they're not sure actually what that means. So I don't think they understood. Kind of, I guess, customizing your skill buttons in a way. We'll have to see. Are there food drinks actually eaten, drank with expressions? So, like, is it animated when you eat or drink? And they said not now, but in the future. So the game's very expressive, obviously, with the art style. So they were hoping that you know, like, hey, I'm gonna eat this food. That there's kind of an like we got the bread emote in Final Fantasy XIV. Like, if it's gonna show you eating. Is it possible to duo dungeons and raids and clear? It may be hard to clear, but you can enter and you can start without the max players. You can have people enter afterwards as well after starting the dungeon. And then they're asking here, how far does the chat reach? Meaning, like, if you type something into chat, what's the range of people actually seeing that? And they say there are some ranges, like local, close range, full field in that channel, private party. You can change the chat box sizes and more. So you're going to have a couple different ranges, like say, shout, channel, field, things like that. And you can also change the chat box size and the font size as well for these chat boxes.
まず人数関係なんですけども、先々週からちょっと生放送の時に、レイドは、30人ですっていうのをお伝えしてたかと思うんですが、申し訳ありませんし、
Oh, yeah.
20人という
And this question is going to be about raids.
どっちかというと、ゲームバランスだったりとか、その辺
The
含めて
high-end content.
っていう調整をしています。ただレイド自体は、最大人数が30人っていうのは変わってはいないので、今後もっと難しいレイドを作って30人
And Jousting Joe, welcome to the workforce. Thanks for hitting that follow button.
弱めというか、まあちょっと人数を絞ったりとか、その辺はコンテンツに合わせていじろうかなと思っています。
So originally they were thinking they wanted 30 people for a raid, but they've recently adjusted it, and it is going to be 20 people for a raid. Seems a little bit mathematically interesting, because if you have 6 people per party, you basically, that's a couple parties of 6, and then you have a party of 2. So I'm curious as to why they didn't end up on 24 or 18 if 6 people are your party.
そういうのもありまして、まあちょっと専用空間を作って
Chat's going off talking about, like, imagine if you had 30 spellcasters, you just dropping 30 meteors everywhere. It could be different for raids. You're absolutely right, Subs. So 5-person raid per team. That evens out to 20. Or you could end up having, like, hey, we're gonna have, you know, a small supports. You know, we're gonna do a couple of different odd matches of parties where you have like a couple of 3-mans, and then you have, you know, like maybe 1 6-man or something like that, and then a 2-man. Yeah, be interesting to see how that ends up working. So they're gonna set it at 20, and they're doing more testing, but they haven't finalized that number. So it's not it's not set in stone.
人数を例えば20人、レイドに参加者が20人を超えると、ここも、別チャンネル扱いで、はい、新しいところが、作られることに、はい、開かれて、そっちの方に、人が入っていきます。で、途中入場は、一部制限がありますが、基本的には途中入場が、可能です。で、バトルスコアの制限も入ってるんですけども、まあ例えばバトルスコアが低くてなかなか戦力になれない場合でも、レイドに関しては例えばこう、救護してもらったりとか、ヒールしてもらったりとか、そういったところ、まあ
Yeah, if there's more than 20 people, they say it's going to be on its own. When they mean channel, basically they're talking about instance of the zone itself. You can use them to unlock emotes, Insanity.
そうですね、参加してみていただければと思います。で、報酬なんですけども、レイドボス撃破時に
You know, so that way you don't necessarily have to subscribe.
戦闘不能
you know, just like if you click the menu and stuff, it's like you can do this with these points or something like that. Somebody was collecting our emotes, which is great. I like that. I like that system a lot. I like, you know, from an engagement, like I want people to be able to like hang out on stream and not feel like they have to spend money.
また、最多ダメージだったり、最多支援などの、部門と部門賞を用意してあります。で、ランキング上位者と、部門賞入賞者には、追加報酬が発生する形になっておりますので、腕に覚えがある方は、
Thanks, Shilligan's Island. Welcome to the workforce. All right, so they get some different information here. So there are going to be some restrictions, obviously, to the system. Even if your battle score is too low, you can still heal, etc. You can go ahead and leech, basically. Solo rankings and class rankings are going to be based off of the fighter damage, and some other conditions apply. So there's going to be different rankings as it relates to these raids and more. And they say you can go in and leech if you are too low as well. So I guess it's going to be dependent on the people who want to like take you in that regard. So if they're like, yep, you know, we're bringing you along. But there's going to be different ways to raise that rank based off of the class that you're playing. And if you guys don't know, you can play one character, all the different classes with this game.
うちがツイッターで出してるようなやつあるじゃないですか。はい。あれは特殊な機能で
I don't know
してるんですけど、
what modify single does.
まあ将来的にはね、はいはい、もっとこう素敵なね、はい、スクリーンショット。
I need to look and see about adding some more emotes. Yeah, Andy. So far, everything they've got planned sounds really good. So, and then they're also now saying, is there a screenshot mode?
特に景色とかね、本当にいいので、まあぜひぜひスクリーンショットの方は撮っていただければと思います。それでは、次の質問をお願いします。一緒にパーティーを組んでいる方にオートでついていく機能はありますかという質問ですが、まあこれ
And they plan, they think it'd be a great addition, and they plan to add it, you know, and screenshot modes are really big, especially you're coming from Final Fantasy XIV. It's like, yeah, there's a lot of that. Looks like we got some more gameplay. Love the emotes. They're just running around town. So is there a setting for auto-following party members? And they said, yes. Let's show it. Subs, I hear you 100%, and especially when we cover Final Fantasy XIV stuff and there's an open Q&A. Usually, generally, you gotta know that 10 or at least half the questions asked could have easily been asked on the forums, and they're all usually about my character's glamour for a specific item and housing. And it's like, I just want them to fix these systems so we don't have to ask these questions anymore when we're talking to Yoshi P. Because the feedback I'm sure he gets is like, people want more glamour. Yeah. Fantastically beautiful. So you can just walk around, you can run around. You can obviously see that the UI is hidden. So you're really getting the full effect of the world. And the follow distance is really pretty nice, is what they're showing. Yeah, that's nice. That is noise. And they say you can chat and actually look around while auto-following. Yeah, city celebration trains are possible. I'm trying to remember. Andy, if they had that, they talked about it.
まあ、ただスタミナ切れたらどっかでも置いてかれるので、はい。
But most modern games kind of have that mentality, so I would be surprised if the game doesn't have that in plans. But I cannot, off the top of my head, remember. Apologize.
キャラクター依存ですか、アカウント依存ですか。まあ今回 CBT も1個のアカウントに対してキャラクターが2個いるので、まあフレンドって言ってるのはキャラ1個ずつにこう依存してるのか、それともアカウント全体で共有なのかというご質問ですが、こちら鈴木さんどうですか？
Yeah, I'm working on it, Insanity.
まあ CBT ではフォロワーという形のまあフレンド機能という名前ではないんですが、フォロワーという機能がCAT と同じ形で入っているという形になり
So
ます。
for this game, most of what they've talked about for gearing and weapons and things like that is crafted. So it sounds like dungeons and things like that are going to supply you with materials, and that's going to be important as to the player economy. Now, that could change, obviously. The game is still in development, so we'll have to wait and see.
自死を繰り返す等の行為の対策。まあこれは、まあ、CAT 今回はあれなんですけど、CAT だと制限時間が減ったり。
So they're asking, is there a friends list that is character bound or account bound? And they say, number one, there's a follower that's going to be implemented, not a friends list. That it is character specific. So it sounds like they're using kind of the Twitter, kind of more social media style system from like instead of like a friends list where I send you a friend request and you approve it and now we're friends. So it sounds like that they're going to allow you to just follow character, like, hey, I'm going to follow characters. And if you follow back, that ends up meaning that you're a friend, but they're still going to be on your list. So I don't know how people feel about that. Honestly, it kind of works in a way. So that way, like if you have a social media presence, that you don't have to sit here and like accept everybody. My friends list is 100% full in Final Fantasy XIV. But if people are like, oh, I want to follow Brian, and that way, like, when I'm online and things like that, that gives you that ability. I wonder if you can say like invisible or things like that, but it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. And it's by specific character, so it's not account bound. So what is going to be done to prevent just dying and respawning, trolling people in dungeons? You can block them and they won't be able to talk, and then you won't be able to see them in the party finder. So they really want to create a friendly environment for this game. Well, also Gunbreaker and is what everybody voted for, so by a large margin. So I think I'm 64, so making my way. And I should have my Astrologian guide up this weekend. Lots of content rolling out for y'all. And right now in the closed beta test, there is no way to kick or vote kick, but they will add it.
ありがとうございます。まあ通報機能自体がね、逆にそれを利用したノーマナー行為っていうのも存在しているので、その辺はすいません、慎重にさせてください。
Chat was saying, there's no bot problem in Bless, FYI. Bless solved it by shutting down. Hardcore. Hardcore.
まあこれめっちゃ悩んだとか。そうなんですよ。これはまあ答えた方がいいだろうとはやっぱり思ってはいるので、まあまず今日お伝えできるところまでお伝えしてます。まずインタビューでもお答えしてますけれども、もともとこのコンテンツは、まあ、グローバル展開も目指して開発を行っているタイトルなので、まあ、海外での展開自体は、まあ、基本的には考えてますが、まず CBT は、まあ、CAT に続いて、まあ、言語とかねサーバー拠点でアンケートの問題がありますので、今回は日本でのテストとさせていただいております。で、また、まあ、今後ね海外で展開するっていうことについては
20 and 27 global server release, please. In the interviews, we've said that it had was intended to go global from the start, but the CBT, as it follows the CAT, and the test will be in Japan for feedback purposes. So from the start, global release, baby, confirmed.
あとは商標登録だったりとかで、予想はされていると思います。要は今準備段階です。なので、正式な発表を待っていただければと思いますが、 日本でのサービス展開が最初となります。ということで、お答えに。
They are still preparing, but I guess it looks like global release confirmed. But in Japan, it will release first, is what they're saying. But it's coming to the world, everybody. We get to play this game in our language. Sing it with me. We get to play this game in our language.
っていうふうにはしたくないですし、しないつもりではいるので、まず日本でちゃんと成功できる形っていうのが、一番目指すべきところかなと思ってます。
Since it's designed very Japanese and it's going to be interesting to the global audience. So they want it to represent the style, and they don't want to basically half-ass it for the rest of the world.
求人を見ていただきますと、どのような感じなのかわかると思うので、腕に覚えのある方は
ぜひお願いします。お願いします。
はい。というわけで、次の疑問質問お願いします。我々 CBT はもちろん正式サービス開始後もプライベートでプレイしますか？それはもうします。当たり前なんですけど、これはもうします。
します。はい。
はい。
これ、正式サービスとかになるとですね、運営開発チームってユーザーさんの知識量に負けるっていう現象が絶対起こってくるんですよ。はいはい、で、チームで我々作っているので、特定のところに詳しい方とか、分散してるんですけど、ユーザーさんの集合値のところから受ける質問とかにタジタジになったり、ユーザーさんの方がゲームうまいみたいな状況って全然発生するんで、僕らも当然そこに、負けないようにゲームはします。はい。で、プラスですね、運営チームは、CBT でもですね、運営チームという形で普通に皆様とゲームプレイはいたします。はい、これクローズドアルファテストの時も、こういった形で、やっていました。ただ仕事
Will the devs play the official release and the CBT? And they say, of course. We want to play along with users and try to understand their opinions, since they are much better than us. And so, yes, the dev team is going to play, which is important. Play in your sandbox. Play in your world. If you're not willing to play in your game, I don't think, you won't see and understand why people love it and why people don't.
ついにね、鈴木さんと福崎さんの性癖がバレるということで。
でも
Yeah, 27 means that they're on question 20 of 27. They have 27 questions from Twitter, and they're answering them. Oh, yeah, exactly. Question 20 was talking about the global release. That it's coming to everybody. So yeah, they also plan on partnering up with people, but not as like OPGMs, but just as normal players.
ただあとあれですね、ちょっと CT の時もそうだったんですけど、CBT の時にちょっと福崎がプレイできるかどうかは
かなり怪しいですね。
ですね、何をやってたかというとですね、CAT の時はトラブルが起きてるかどうかをユーザーさんの情報とか見ながら追っかけてたり、何か発生したら即座に開発の方に連絡して、じゃあどうすんだっていうのをその場で決めて、今度運営側に戻したりっていう、ちょっと間を走り回ることをやってたので、正直アカウントはあったんですけど、プレイしてる暇1ミリもなかったですね、CAT の時は。なのでちょっと CBT に関しては、ちょっと状況次第かなとは思うんですけど、
And they were reflecting back on the closed alpha test, and they said they had to be ready for anything, so they were playing like as GM overpowered devs. And then most of the time they didn't actually have time to play, so they were more focused on making sure everything was running smoothly.
ですので、墨付き括弧がついていなくて運営って書いてる人は偽物ですのでご注意ください。
はい。というわけで、見かけたら、ぜひ一緒に絡んでください。はい。はい、ではここからはですね、我々が質問していただいたものに対しての答えではなく、はい、我々として、アルファでこうやったよみたいなことを含めてちょっとアピールしたいと思います。
そうです ですね。
アピール大会。
質問いっぱいいただいてるんで、じゃあこっちからもアピールさせていただこうかな。
Moda Venom, welcome to the workforce.
一つ目のアピールはこちらです。
はい。
はい。属性状態異常一覧とバースト効果一覧を伝えておきたい。まあこれ前回。
そうですね。前回
So will have names with special brackets to designate them in the game. So that way you can also make sure that you're not getting scammed by an impersonator pretending to be a dev.
属性状態変化はさっき
And Japanese text.
ちょっとレベルによるちょっと変化はちょっと微量なので、今回ひとまとめにさせていただきました。で、非属性と闇属性は基本的に継続ダメージ、いわゆるドットダメージですね。で、水属性、
Like a buff and debuff list?
水属性が移動速度ダウンで、雷属性が、継続ダメージプラススキルのインターバル、自分もそうですしエネミーもそうです。スキルのインターバルの延長効果があります。で、光がですね、継続ダメージとその継続ダメージのごとに、ノックバックやられですねを、発動させる効果となっております。で、現段階は多分光超強いよねっていう話をしているので、ちょっと
これノックバック
ノックバックって相手の行動をちょっと阻害する。
Oh, so no, this is the elemental effects.
何もしてこなくなる可能性が強い攻撃ってことですね。
そうですね。はい。ちなみに自分が食らうと結構地獄です。
そうです。
相手も
They added light and dark. So you have fire, water, lightning, ground, light, and dark. So those are apparently the 6 different elemental types. It might be. I've got it for YouTube as a couple different things. Let me see here real quick.
6種類あるのに効果2効果しかねえじゃねえかっていうところもあるかと思うんですけど、そこら辺はですね。
What is my alert sound for follows?
全部ユニークな効果にしたいっていう思いと、多分ユニークにしたら強弱が出ちゃうよなっていう思いとがちょっとあるので、その辺はちょっといろいろ考えたり調整しながら。
If you were a chick, who's the one guy you'd sleep?
John Stamos.
What? Just become best friends. Yep. You want to go do karate in the garage?
Yep. There we go. I'll change this. Yeah, it is the default. I don't know how that defaulted back.
If you were a chick, who's the one guy you would sleep with?
John Stamos.
What? Did we just become best friends?
Yep. You want to go do karate in the garage?
Do you want to go do karate in the garage?
There you go. Fix it. So that's the sub one, and then you'll hear the breathtaking for the follow. Yo, breathtaking. Ooh, gameplay.
例えばついてきちゃった今回トークモードという形になってますが、
Alright, so
このモードだと全く
they're going to post more on that later in more detail, but they'll have effects like buffs and debuffs, as well as burst damage effects based off of the different elements.
ここにあるマウスを使ってキャラクターの
Ooh, very nice. Talk mode.
選択できるように
Just hanging out and talking.
これは他のモニュメントとかいっぱい人がいると選択がしにくいという声が
This UI looks incredible.
F キーだけのターゲットインタラクトだけではなくてこのトークモードからもターゲットを行うことができるようにという
You can now talk while moving.
かなりね使いやすくなります。
なんで人がごちゃっといるけどあの人を選択したいなっていう時にはこのトークモード内からの選択を使っていただければと思っています。
はいはいありがとうございました。それではスタンプもいっぱい打ってるんですけど
I like those little animations.
それでは次の
I like those little animations.
お願いします。ちょっとこの間のやつでタイムアタックありますよっていうのが出たんですけど、ランキングについて伝えておきたい。
はい。
So you can still also interact with certain characters in talk mode with the F key as well.
は、集計されるということなんですけれども、今回ゲーム内じゃないんですよ。
そうなんです。今回はウェブ公式サイトでのランキングの公開とさせていただきます。今後はちゃんとゲーム内にランキングを設けるという形なんですが、本来仕様のものを作っていきたいというところがありますので、ベータテストという段階ではウェブで一定時間で集計させていただいて公開させていただくといった形にさせていただきます。
All right, so now question number 24 is please tell us about the time attack rankings. So the ranks are actually going to be on the official site, but they'll also add them in game as well. In game, yes, thank you. whenever you got to go off to a website, it means less to me.
まあタイムアタックは本当になんだろうな CBT においてはエンドコンテンツ扱いですかね。本当にカリカリにやり込んだ人が時間を競っていただければそれでいいと思っています。はい。まあそれをなんだろうベースにするつもりとかも別にないので、はい。タイムアタックがやりたいならここでやりなよっていうこう究極
まあどうぞというところですね。はい。
Yeah, so like time attack scores, like all these little things that aren't it is PvP without being PvP, right? You know, it's like gives you kind of that like can you be the best of this class on this content? It gives you the ability to run towards it, etc. So that's what I want. That's what I want to see because that's like then it gives you as a character like just a random goal. Like you don't have like there's no progress locked behind being number 1 or the top 100. But it gives you the ability to like, do I want to sit here for bragging rights? Do I want to sit here and talk crap to my friends? Like, look at me. You know, and it gives you something to work towards. I really wish Final Fantasy did something like that as well. So regarding that, you know, they're going to probably look at it and change and make adjustments based off the closed beta test and official launch based off of player feedback. Yeah, well, I mean, like PvP isn't always just me versus you and like combat, like who bested us, right? Like if you look at 14's PvP, Beast right now is based a lot of heavily based off the right healer. Obviously some factors, other factors come into play, but imagine if like we got ranks, you know, weekly on a certain dungeon, and you can see how far, you know, they have it somewhat like with Deep Dungeon, but just not in the other systems. Like who could do the most fates in a given week by free company? Like you could even make it not just about me versus you in a score, but like you make it based off your friends list, you make it based off your free companies, and a lot of that already exists in 14. It's just pushed over on the website, and if it was in game, that'd be amazing. Let's see here. All right, so please tell me more about the quests. Yes, it does. House of the Dead, Heaven on High. There's also free company ranks. But all that pretty much is over on the website, which means you don't really use it. Some people might, but it needs to be in game. So they want you to search the field and to find the quest. As some are hidden throughout the work, essentially out the world. It's a part of the exploration. So you'll have to find and interact with certain things, and you can find quests that way. So those are for non-story quests. So yeah, just go explore the world. You'll run into people who have quests for you, and go do those quests if you want to do those quests.
メイドと迷子猫探してください。それでは次の伝えたいポイントはこちらです。公式ツイッターについて伝えておきたい。
So they say, please try talking with a lot of these NPCs as they are truly alive.
今後ですね、ブループロトコルの公式ツイッターでは皆様のブループロトコルに関する、SNS や、動画の投稿、ブログなどについていいねや、リツイート、ツイートでのシェアをさせていただきたいと思っています。いただく場合があります。はい。ツイッター投稿については、ハッシュタグカタカナのブループロ、ハッシュタグの、アルファベットのブループロトコルがついている投稿を中心に、拾っていきたいと考えています。
And so regarding their official Twitter, from now on, they would like to retweet Blue Protocol related contents using the hashtag Blue Protocol.
事前に書いていただくか、ついた時にお問い合わせフォームまたはダイレクトメールなどで、教えていただければ取り消しをいたしますのでよろしくお願いします。というものですね、皆さんイラスト素敵なのを描いていただいたり、
ファンアートをね、結構もう上げていただいてる、
プラスマークのやつとかすごかったので、ちょっとはい皆様にもっと知っていただきたいなというところがありますので、公式としてもいいものにはいいと言いたいという
自己紹介シート。
自己紹介シート。
自己紹介シートも素晴らしくて
ね、なんか書きたかったですよ。
3人の書いてもいいですけどい
やでもね、ああやって盛り上がっていただけると非常に嬉しいですよね。 はい、それでは、アピール伝えたい
So they say if you can also, if you don't want to be shared, you can just DM them. Some people might not want to be promoted like that. Free clout? Free clout though.
実施時期かと思った方すいません、そうじゃないです。
あそうじゃないです。
はい。ですね、
Nice. Gray Mage.
CBT から CBT を開発するにあたって、少し前に出させていただいたフィールドバックレポートもそうなんですけども、結構なところを改修も修正もしてますし、新規機能の実装も、結構ギリギリまで、行っております。ですので、どちらかというと機能が入った後、それをちょっとゴリゴリちょっとプレイして、もうちょっとこの辺こうした方がいいよねっていうところの、開発内でのちょっとフィードバックがちょっと足りない状態になってると、こちらとしては感じてまして、全体的な分かりやすさだったりとか見やすさだったり、あとコンテンツのつながりの感じですねのところがちょっと不足しているかなと思っています。で、正直誤解を恐れずに。
So some things that they want to explain about the closed beta test, that we were going to conduccting changes until pretty much the start of another service, just like the closed beta test.
で、これから先、サービスに向けて、直していくつもりではあるので、開発がこういうふうに直したいと思っている部分と、ユーザーさんがこういうところをこう嫌だと思ったりとかストレスに感じたっていうところをもう一緒に直していきたいとは思いますので、そこに関しては、
And they are building up an internal list of changes and fixes that they want to make already to the game.
ぜひアンケートで、お寄せいただきたい。良かったところももちろん欲しいんですけど、悪かったところもやっぱりすごく欲しいので、そこに関しては、ちょっと CBT の実装がちょっと中途半端で。
So you might report some things that you want fixed, and it's going to be already on their list.
皆様がの、ご意見もいただきたいと思いますので、よろしくお願いします。
まあ、正直僕たちも何ヶ月もプレイしてるので、まあ、ぶっちゃけ操作慣れがあったりとか、もう目で追うのとかも。
And they really, really want your feedbacks regarding both the good and the bad. They need it. They need the deets.
ただ4日間ぐらい触ってると、実際もうその感覚薄い。
Venom, what do you mean? Is there a limit to how many questions you could accept? They select the number of questions beforehand of what they're wanting to share, etc. It won't let you unlock the Blue Mage?
まあそれも含めて CBT のテストをしっかりやっていきたいですし、その後フィードバックもしっかりやっていきたいと思っておりますので、ぜひよろしくお願いいたします。はい。
はい、という質問のコーナーは以上ですかね。はい、となります。たくさんのご質問ありがとうございました。はい。
I do.
というところで、番組も
There is a Blue Mage emote.
近づいてきたんですけど、
The
これ実は前回もそうだったん
They
ですけ
thank
ど、
everybody for the questions, and then it's almost time to wrap up.
今42分って見えてますね。
前回を更新しました。途中でね、今のままだと22時ペースです。すみません、途中でちょっとだけ巻きを入れさせていただきましたけど。はい。
はい。ということで今日の配信では新たなゲームの要素も見せつつ、皆様の頃の、質問にもお答えしてきたわけなんですが、CBT の募集期間は、3月2日の月曜日の11時までとなります。ですのでこの週末が、最後。
絶対最後ってことですね。
はい。残りわずかな、応募
Now, I think they're basically summarizing what they kind of talked about, which is good public speaking etiquette. Tell people what you're going to tell them the information, and then tell them what you told them.
このブルプロ通信は、CBT 募集期間は、今回が最後の配信となります。もしかしたらまた、生配信
And the closed beta registration closes on March the 2nd. So if you have not registered and you want to try the beta, be sure to do so. Also, be sure to provide feedback to the devs.
いかがでしたでしょうか。はい。じゃあこれもうちょっとコメント。
そうですね。ちょっとコメント今まで本当申し訳ないです。コメントすごく書いてくださってるんですけど、多分一回もコメントに返したことほぼない。金じゃぐらいですか。
やっぱねちょっとディレイがある。
そうなんですよ。実際
Yeah, it better be a mini breakdown. And now that we've summarized everything we've shared, it only took us 5 minutes, 5 less minutes to do that. So this is their last stream until the closed beta test. They plan on future live letter streams and more. So just that's good to know. So this is kind of the kind of a big 3-week sprint for them, showing off the information, getting ready for closed beta, detailing the classes and the changes, etc. So yeah, I guess we'll let you know when we got more details about that in the future.
それでは最後にですね、本日の感想と CBT の抱負をお願いします。まずは福崎さん。
はい、今日もそうですし、
Bandai Namco.
ご覧いただきありがとうございました。ですね、コメントで
So right now it's releasing and this is Bandai Namco. I'm wondering if they're gonna if there's no it has gamepad support, but they have not confirmed whether it's coming to consoles or not. I think that would be really cool if it did, but we'll have to wait and see. And I could easily see this, if the game is popular. It's a free-to-play action MMORPG, anime-based, and man, I would love to see this on PlayStation. I don't know if I would say PlayStation 4. It depends on when it releases, right? Because it's at some point you're like, hey, just put this on the new consoles. But the way the new consoles are setting up, that they're kind of cross-gen, so it could be Xbox, PlayStation, etc. The Fairy Tale RPG? I haven't heard about that one.
で一旦ちょっと一区切りではありますが、またちょっとそうですね、このメンツでまたちょっといろいろやっていきたいですね。というのはもちろんあるので、はい、今後また、お会いできるところがありましたら、その時はよろしくお願いします。本日はありがとうございました。
はい、続いて下川さんお願いします。
言ってくれた。
先週スッと
So are you really going to have over 50,000 registrations for the beta? The official YouTube channel only has 22,000 subs.
もしかしたらやりきれないっていう部分もあるかもしれないんですけど、たくさん触っていただいて、本当にたくさんご意見をいただいて、やっぱりインタビューでも答えし、さっきもちょっと言ったんですけど、俺たちのプルプロぐらいの気持ちでね、ファンの方がいてくださるのがやっぱり一番嬉しいし、やっぱ答えたくもやっぱなりますので、それも含めてぜひぜひフィードバックをお寄せください。
Oh, you're breathtaking. Londark, welcome to the workforce.
しっかりと僕らの思いだったりとか、ゲームの今の状況とか伝えられるところをしっかり伝えていきたいということもありますし、生配信かどうかはね、収録はもうごめんなさい。収録はもうちょっとごめん。
Yeah, I turned them down. I mean, unless you speak Japanese. And then if you know how to listen to Japanese, I would expect that you would probably be watching them and not me. And yeah, they're pretty much done and wrapping up the show, Londark. I'll have highlights of the different the dungeon, the battle arena, the Q&A over on Work to Play here in a little bit. Those will go up in kind of their different sections. So I look forward to that. I'll also have kind of a full summary on Ginger Prime and kind of my thoughts over on Work to Game about these changes, what they mean, what they could mean, what I hope they mean, things like that. Opinions incoming. People love opinions. Oh, the internet is a fun place.
プレイとかここなんかとちってんなとかを見ながら皆さんのコメントをちゃんと確認をさせていただいています。でこれからもですね。
Yeah, I've had people before comment, "You're talking over the devs."
皆様にちゃんとフィードバックをしていきたいというところで。
It's like okay.
で今回 CBT 募集期間で最後という。
I'm not just restreaming it here to be like, yeah.
やります。
もう言っちゃうんだ。言っちゃうんだ。
やりますよ。やります。
So if you guys haven't, if you guys don't know, from a summary perspective, they showed off the dungeon, the battle arena, which is their party versus party. You have a battle rank, weapon levels, all that's going to accumulate to your battle rank. You've got, then they're talking about looting. If you do 1 damage, party, single player, no kill stealing, no loot stealing, and goodbye. So this is a really good stream. The last one until sometime after the closed beta test. You have registration until the 2nd to get that done. Thanks everybody for hanging out on the stream. Love you, love you guys. Hopefully you all gonna have a great Thursday. And yeah, I'm looking forward to hearing your opinions over on Ginger Prime Work to Game and Work to Play. See you guys.
See